First up, I was going to ask for a minute's approval. I'm going to skip over that for the time being. Is K-State in the room here? I don't see anybody from K-State. K-State is who supplied the food to us this afternoon. So just wanted to shout out to them to say thank you. Thought maybe they'd be in the room to say hi to us. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the State Historical Society. Jennifer Light, take it away. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Light. I'm a fiscal analyst with KLRD, and I'm going to talk to you about the State Historical Society. Should be the first document in your packet. Should be pink. In the audience is Patrick Zollner and Matthew Chappell from the agency, so if there are questions, we can also have them come up and speak. In fiscal year 2025, the agency submits a revised estimate of $4.7 million in capital improvement expenditures in fiscal year 25, including $4.6 million SGF. The revised estimate includes the following capital projects. There is $375,000 for emergency rehab and repair. There is $2.8 million for the Kansas Museum of History AHUs and chillers, which is a one-time expense. This request was approved by the legislature last year, and this is for refurbishing air handling units and a chiller at the Museum of History here in Topeka. Top of page 2 of your document is the Curtis House purchase. The agency's request includes $300,000 SGF to purchase the Curtis House in Topeka as a state historic site. They are in the process of this and are very close to finalizing it, but it has not been finalized yet. This was also approved last year during the 2024 session. Item number 4 is the Shawnee Indian Mission roof replacement, which was approved last year. It includes $237,946 SGF to finish replacing cedar shingles on all 3 of the Shawnee Indian Mission's roofs, as well as the circa 1930s utility building. The first new item for this year in the capital improvements request is a $905,000 SGF request for interior wall infrastructure within the gallery of the Kansas Museum of History, the associated engineering costs, and the updates to the life safety systems required by this new infrastructure. The agency indicates that this needed infrastructure is not within the scope of the contractor who is responsible for the design and development of the individual exhibits. And I do know that this project is ongoing as we speak. Finally, in fiscal year 2025 is the Red Rocks White's House repairs. The agency's request includes $100,000, all from federal funds for repairs to windows, wood trim frames, and parts of the porch on William Allen White's house. The agency indicates that the combination of weathering, age, and the normal finish degradation has, along with more frequent storms, has accelerated the need for repair. I'd be happy to stand for questions on fiscal year 25 or move to fiscal year 26.
Okay, committee, any questions? All right, let's move on then.
Absolutely. In fiscal year 2026, the agency requests $1.3 million in capital improvement expenditures, including $1.1 million SGF. And this request includes the following: $625,000 for emergency rehab and repair. This is an increase of $250,000 above the fiscal year 2025 request, and this is due to the continued high inflationary costs for materials and services. The fund covers routine maintenance and emergency repairs for more than 50 buildings and structures located at the 15 historic sites in Kansas and the Kansas Historical Society headquarters in Topeka. Item number 2 is the State Archives mobile shelving units. The agency is requesting $302,500 SGF to do a system conversion of the mobile library records shelving system in the Center for Historic Research. You may remember last year we did the legislature did approve for the archival systems for the mobile shelvings. This is the large main section of the mobile shelving units that they would be starting work on in fiscal year 26. Number 3 is the Mayor Decine request. The agency's request includes $200,000, all from private donations for the first year in a multi-year project at the Mayor Decine's Massacre site in Massacre State Historic Site to restore utilities, the landscape, the Hadskill House Visitor Center, and narrative features along the pass. And finally, in fiscal year 2026 is the Grinter Place ADA compliant and visitor parking request. This is also one time, and it's $203,040, including $128,000 SGF to replace the ADA compliant parking lot at Grinter Place Historic Site, which is located in Kansas City. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Committee, any questions either on 25 or 26? Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jennifer. So how does projects that were approved last year but have yet to be completed, are they impacted by the Legislative Budget Committee's proposal come out of the interim work there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The projects that had already been designated as approved by the legislature last year are not affected currently within the House Bill 2007. They are already appropriated money for, and so therefore we're not part of the new requests that were the discussions as far as supplements or enhancements that were removed during the special committee on legislative budget.
Thank you.
Representative Francisco.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, Senator Francisco, my bad.
I try to represent the people. So in looking at the description, it talks about a revised estimate of 4.7 million. How much of that revised estimate was already approved?
So, Mr.
Which
Chair.
projects under that?
It is, so the $375,000 for emergency rehab repair. So items 1 through 4 on the list were already approved, which puts us at roughly $3.5 million, all funds.
I was interested in the project, so that's very helpful to know that 1 through 4 have been approved, and then 5 and 6 would be part of an enhancement request for 25.
Further questions?
Mr. Chair, I would also point out that Red Rocks is not actually, the item number 6 is not actually part of an enhancement request. It was private donations. It's just part of the capital improvements section for your approval, but it was not actually an enhancement request.
Any of the other projects on here include any private donations or other?
So in fiscal year 2026, it is possible for $75,000 in federal funds to be being part of that request. That's part of that 203. That's why it says only 128,000 SGF.
Okay, part of the 2003. Oh, on number 4.
On number 4 in fiscal year 26, top of the 3rd page.
All right. And that is duly noted in there.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Mayor Decine is also from private donations. So item number 3 at the bottom of page 2, that is private donations as well?
100% of it?
100%. And it is a multi-year project, but it's $200,000 for the first year of that multi-year project.
Further questions? Okay. Normally I would ask for a motion at this point, but I don't think I can yet. I think we're still one short. Yeah. So we'll come back to it then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next on the list is Adjunct General. And we have Kyle Anderson as the fiscal analyst. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Kyle Anderson with the KLRD. I will be presenting the Adjunct General's capital budget. Starting on the first blue page, the fiscal year 2025 capital improvements request is for $57.3 million, including $21 million of SGF. The first project is the State Defense Building remodel for the Kansas Department of Emergency Management and state offices. This is a $22.9 million request, including $472,862. The funding is largely supported by ARPA funds. This has previously been approved for fiscal year 2024, but the project did not end up being completed in 2024 and was pushed off to fiscal year 2025. The second project, the Hayes Armory, is a $15.8 million SGF request for the construction of a new Hayes Armory. The current Hayes Readiness Center lies in a floodplain and has some complications therewith. The third item is for disaster grant and oh, that's the wrong page, sorry. Rehabilitation and repair. And that is a $7.4 million request, including $4.8 million of SGF. The rehabilitation and repair is for various buildings, groundskeeping, and maintenance associated with the department. And this is an increase of $1.3 million SGF from the approved amount for fiscal year 2025. The fourth request is for the Kansas City Active Nature Restoration, and this is a $5.7 million request for of federal funds for restoring damage to floors, walls, and electrical and mechanical systems that were hurt in a flood event. The fifth request is for the Trimley White Readiness Center. This is a $5 million federal fund request, and this is for the conversion of a facility donated by the U.S. Army Reserve in 2023 to be converted into the 35th Division Artillery Headquarters, and requires updates to the HVAC system and production or installation of ADA compliant features. The last request for 2025 is the Great Bend Field Maintenance Shop Edition. This is a $500,000 request to convert the radar bays into vehicle maintenance shops and add a all new vehicle maintenance work bay to the facility. Are there any questions for fiscal year 2025?
Any questions on 2025? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Is there any, do we have any information on, I see the agency and the LBC here, but do we have the governor's recs on any of these?
The governor made no changes to these requests.
Any of them? Okay, thank you.
Further questions? All right, let's move on to 2026 then.
For fiscal year 2026, the agency's request is $17.4 million, including $4.5 million SGF. The first request is for rehabilitation and repair of $10.5 million, including $4.5 million SGF. And as with 2025, this is for various maintenance, groundskeeping, and utility replacements at the Adjutant General's facilities across the state. Item number 2 is the Forbes Energy Resilience and Conservation Investment Program. This is a plan to create a 2 megawatt power generation system that is islandable to segregate it from the rest of the grid in the event of issues with the power system, and includes a 500 kilowatt solar array, a 1 megawatt battery storage system, and a 500 kilowatt emergency backup generator. And the last request for 2026 is the Fort Riley Readiness Center. And this is a $1 million construction request to move the 130th Field Artillery Brigade headquarters from the Manhattan Readiness Center to a new facility on Forbes Field, or Fort Riley, I'm sorry. Any questions for fiscal year 2026?
Any questions? Okay. I've got a question, if I could, to Representative Anderson. You sit on some other budget committees. When we've seen no changes on LBC, that tells me that the Legislative Budget Committee has already looked at this, and it looks good to them. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we heard, before session, we heard all of this and there was no changes made.
Any further questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And along those lines, what, and I don't know if I should ask this or not, but the Appropriations Committee had requested that agencies come back with a 7.5% reduction of their SGF spending. And I don't know if any of these agencies have had a chance to look into that. I think that's a week-old request, but I'd be curious if there's any comments on that from anybody in the gallery.
And thank you for asking that. I needed to hear it. Go ahead if you.
Mr. Chairman, off the top of my head, I do not know if the agency has finalized what their 7.5% reductions are, but I would be happy to yield to the agency if they have.
Okay. Further questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Keith Marshall with the Adjutant General's Department. We have not finalized that 7.5% cut. We just discussed it with the governor's office this morning. We work as a state agency through the Division of Budget, so we're coordinating with them also on that. Our hope is to have it done by tomorrow morning for the Appropriations Committee meeting.
Well, I applaud your work put into it in a conversation with the budget director. I'm to understand that normally when requests like that are made, there are months of preparations, not days. So I'll just appreciate your work.
Thank you. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was able to be part of just 2 days of the Legislative Budget Committee, and there were not specific recommendations made, I think, on any of the requests, but simply an overall motion that said, we're going to adopt this without any enhancements. So when it says LBC no changes, is that from the bill that was, I guess, HB 2007?
Mr. Chairman, the requests before you were not considered to have fallen within the enhancements and supplemental removal.
Mr. Chair, I'm assuming that the budget committees will continue to look at these requests and not just assume that that one motion handled everything. And I think I heard that they were asking committees to look very carefully. And also, I think that idea of asking for what you could cut sort of was part of that. I'm pleased to support these requests, and particularly because many of them are paid for from federal funds. So I'm guessing any project paid for by federal funds is not going to have that same review.
Further questions? Okay. IT, is there anybody online yet? Okay, so still no quorum. Okay, appreciate it, and we'll move on to the next one. Next one would be KDADs in state hospitals with Dayton.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Lemunyon, am I pronouncing? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Dayton Lemunyon, Senior Fiscal Analyst with Legislative Research. I'll be presenting the capital budget for KDADs and the state hospitals. The state hospital capital improvements go through the Department for Aging and Disability Services, so most of the capital improvements will be in the KDAD's budget. So beginning with fiscal year 2025, I'll note first that the entirety of fiscal year 2025 was approved by last year's legislature. So the agency submits a revised estimate of $98.2 million in capital improvement expenditures in fiscal year 2025, including $76.3 million state general fund and $21.9 million from the state institutions building fund. It includes the following projects. Item 1 is the Sedgwick County Hospital. The agency is constructing a state psychiatric hospital in Sedgwick County in conjunction with the county. In fiscal year 2025, $76.3 million SGF is budgeted for this purpose. And again, this was approved by the legislature last year and over a number of previous years. Item 2, rehabilitation and repair projects, priority 1. The revised estimate includes $3.2 million state institutions building fund for priority 1 rehabilitation and repair projects at the hospitals. It includes air conditioning and chiller replacements at buildings on the Larned campus, replacing condensing units and walk-in freezers on the Osawatomie campus, re-roofing a building on the Parsons campus, and re-roofing 2 buildings on the Kansas Neurological Institute campus. Item 3. The agency's revised estimate includes $5.6 million state institutions building fund for their priority 2 projects. The bulk of this funding is to begin phase 1 of replacing the medium voltage electrical system at Osawatomie, as well as upgrading sewer mains at KNI and Osawatomie, replacing a chiller at Larned, and replacing piping at Parsons. Item 4. The revised estimate includes $3.2 million for raising projects at the state hospitals. 2 of those have been completed, to my knowledge. Turning to the next page, item 5. The revised estimate also includes $9.9 million for funding that reappropriated from the prior year for ongoing projects that were not completed in fiscal year 2024. And I could stand for questions or move on to 26.
Committee, any questions on 2025? Not seeing any. Go ahead and move on to 26. Thank you.
So on page 15, for fiscal year 2026, the agency requests $26.7 million in capital improvement expenditures, including $12.1 million state general fund and $14.6 from the state institutions building fund. This includes the following projects. Item 1 is for the Sedgwick County Hospital. The request includes an additional $12.1 million to complete construction of the facility. Item 2, rehabilitation and repair, priority 1. The request includes $3.5 million SIBF from the priority for the priority 1 projects, which would fund the following projects. Larned, replacing a fire system at the volunteer building, and Jung building, replacing medium voltage protection relays at the power plant and repainting the exterior wood fascia of the Dillon building. Osawatomie, replacing a steam boiler, repairing greenhouse sidewalks, tunnel top and access, and fire station tunnel and driveway, installing automation on air handling units in the Biddle dining room, and replacing windows on some Adair cottages. For KNI, it includes replacing a chiller at Pleasant View, upgrading emergency lighting, and replacing the fire alarm system at the Cottonwood. For Parsons, it includes installing a fire sprinkler system in Elm and Holly cottages, and installing a fire alarm system at the Hickory and Willow cottages. For item 3, the request includes $3.5 million state institution building fund for the priority 2 projects in the 5-year plan, which would fund the following projects: repairing drainage area problems, replacing flooring in 2 buildings, adding concrete walking paths and seating areas, and replacing flooring tiles in the Isaac Ray building. For Osawatomie, purchasing and installing a summertime boiler, replacing condensing units at the Cedric's building, replacing windows at the Cottonwood Activity Center, and re-roofing the Cottonwood Resource Center. For KNI, it would include upgrading lighting. For Parsons, installing a fire sprinkler system in the cafeteria and a fire sprinkler system in 3 cottages. And turning to item 4, which carries over to the following page. The request also includes $7.7 million to fund the agency's 3 enhancement requests related to capital improvements. The first item, Adair Acute Care building remodel. The agency requests $4.7 million SIBF to remodel the A building at Adair Acute Care on the OSC campus. Adair Acute Care houses the federally certified beds on the campus. The project would remodel the unit, which includes 15 patient rooms. It would increase capacity from 159 to 189 beds. And that item was recommended by the governor. The next item, Osawatomie State Hospital and the Cottonwood building remodel. The agency requests $2 million to remodel the Cottonwood Resource Center building at Osawatomie. The building was constructed in 1956 and has not been remodeled since then. The project would include ceiling and tuck pointing, a number of modifications listed there. The governor did not recommend this item. The final item there, Osawatomie State Hospital Special Services and Myco House remodel. The agency requests $926,000 from the State Institutions Building Fund to remodel the Special Services Building and the office area in the Myco House Reintegration Facility at Osawatomie. And the governor did recommend that item. If I could step back one page to page 15. The governor also recommended the items on that page. So only the Cottonwood building remodel was not recommended by the governor. And the Legislative Budget Committee, if you will turn back to the front page, the governor or the Legislative Budget Committee only recommended the priority one, rehab and repair for fiscal year 2026. And I'll now stand for questions on 26.
All right, committee questions, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess maybe this is just me bringing light to it and less of something you can answer, but repainting the exterior of the Dillon building is $500,000. That just seems
You're looking at which item?
seems high.
Sorry.
Rehabilitation and repair priority 1, sorry, page 15. It's the bottom of the first bullet point, repainting the exterior wood of Dillon. 460.
Mr. Chair, Representative, we do have the agency available. Deputy Secretary Scott Bruner from KDADS is available. I'm not sure that he would have more input there, but.
Just state your name and welcome to the committee.
Thanks. Scott Bruner, Deputy Secretary. It's one of the oldest buildings we have on the campus. It's multiple stories tall, and the wooden fascia is at the top of the building. It's in pretty bad repair overall, so there'll be, in addition to painting it, we've probably got to repair most of it before we can, before the paint would even hold. There's some weather issues, but so it's an extremely old building at some elevation as well, so we're gonna have to get scaffolding up there to remove it and get it painted. So I think that contributes to the overall cost. Thank you for the question.
Further questions? Yes. Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not sure who this is for, but the SIBF fund, how is that funded? Where's the monies come from? Originally SGF or transfer or what?
It is funded through a mill levy. Yes. I can send you all the State Institutions Building Fund table, which has the kind of the revenue ending balance, as well as that funding description. I can provide that to the committee.
So is that individual or part of that 1 mil, 1.5 mil?
Let me verify that for you. It is the funded through a $0.5 mil levy. So 1 mil is funding the educational building fund and a $0.5 mil is funding the SIBF. That question always catches me.
Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I note that the Legislative Budget Committee is not recommending funding for the Sedgwick County Hospital, but we had the opportunity on the tour with Appropriations and Ways and Means. My understanding is construction has started on that facility already, or some appropriations have been made. So how would you finish that construction if, or what would happen to the money that we've already spent if we don't finish that construction?
Go ahead if you have an answer.
I'm not sure that is a question that I can answer. So I'll defer to Scott if that's all right.
Scott Bruner, Deputy Secretary, again. So most of the funding for the construction has already been appropriated and is sitting in the KDAD's budget. The last 12 million or so that is represented in the capital budget is what we need to complete the project based on the estimated building costs. So it is already, it's in the 26 governor's budget in the KDAD's budget and included there. So without any other action, we should be fine to get the construction completed. But the vast majority of the funding's already been appropriated either through ARPA or through prior general fund appropriations from prior fiscal years. We haven't started construction yet. We got the conditional permit today, a couple of hours ago. So we will be starting some dirt work on the site in the next week or 10 days or so. But for the most part, all of the money that we need to get the building constructed is already appropriated or is part of the governor's budget in fiscal 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern was that it's not part of the Legislative Budget Committee recommendation.
Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another question on that SIBF, if you could let us know where that sits, what the balance is on that.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I understand that Brianna will be providing that table to you at the next meeting. So you'll have the beginning balance expenditures, all of that information.
Okay, and then one follow-up. And excuse my ignorance on this, but it's first time on this committee. With the different agencies and the buildings, is everything just like self-insured by the state? State doesn't have any, or the different agencies don't have any type of other insurance that helps with some of these things?
Got to kick that one to Scott. Sorry about that. I'm not sure about the insurance.
We do use some SIBF to buy general liability coverage for the buildings, but otherwise we're self-insured.
And will that give the amount of that coverage for general liability?
That I would have to go ask how much we have, because we're insuring 4 campuses, at least in our system, 4 campuses, a couple million square feet under roofs. So it's a significant policy, but again, our primary insurance coverage is if a building is damaged or needs repair, we use the SIBF funding to fit that into our capital.
I'd be interested in that. Thank you.
Put that together, get it to date.
Before you run off, if I could follow up on that, on the self-insurance, do we self-insure to a certain dollar amount and then have like a big umbrella policy for the state, or how does?
That's what I'll have to check on. I'm not sure what the
Okay,
policy is,
that's
but we do have a premium that comes out of our SIBF funding, and I can get the details of that back to you.
Other questions? Okay. To the, Mr. Dayton, if I could, and I think we've already got research looking at this, but you had mentioned one of the items was $500,000. Do you have any idea how much a mill is on this? And if you don't, that's fine. We got somebody going to research it, but I didn't know if maybe you knew.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. That's not
that to you at the
backing
table.
Well, I was just curious. Okay, thank you. Further questions? All right. Well, thank you for your testimony, and we'll move on since we still don't have a quorum. Next up is, looks like Board of Regents. Brianna. You've got the long one here.
Good morning, committee. Brianna Horton with KLRD, fiscal analyst. I staff this committee and then have all the Regents universities and KBOR. If you turn to that ivory sheet, that will be for the Kansas Board of Regents. The agency submits a revised estimate of $5 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 2025, including $5 million SGF. You can see those details below. So number one is for the Educational Building Fund. The agency revised estimate includes $107,000 remaining in the EBF fund in FY 2025. These funds are used for consultants monitoring the campus restoration plan. EBF monies are dedicated to deferred maintenance for mission-critical buildings at state universities. The EBF receives a revenue from a mill levy on tangible property in the state that is subject to an ad valorem tax. The Board of Regents calculates EBF appropriations using an adjusted square footage formula that includes gross square footage, building age, and complexity of the physical plan. So when we read through all of the universities, you will see EBF dispersed through each of those. Item 2 is demolition funding. The agency revised FY 2025 estimate includes $5 million SGF. The 2024 legislature appropriated $5 million to the demolition fund, of which $750 was reappropriated from FY 24 to 25. The board transferred $800,000 to KSU in FY 2025, leaving the remaining amount for $4,950,000. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will stand for questions on 2025.
All right. Committee, any questions on Board of Regents 2025? Not seeing any. Let's move on.
Okay. So primarily the things we're seeing in the Board of Regents are just funding sources for the university. So it's just that money coming in and then being dispersed out. So item number 1 is the Educational Building Fund. The Board of Regents requests $62 million in the EBF fund. These funds are dedicated to deferred maintenance for mission critical buildings at the state universities. And then there's that same explanation about the mill levy. If we flip to the back on page 2, this is fairly new. This is the Kansas Campus Restoration Act. So this was a bill that got passed last year. So the Board of Regents requests $32.7 million from the Kansas Campus Restoration Fund. The 2024 legislature passed SB 552, or the Kansas Restoration Act, which created the KCR fund with the state treasury and transfers $32.7 million from the state general fund to the Kansas Campus Restoration Fund each fiscal year. The Board of Regents distributes the funds according to the requirements outlined in the bill. So any questions for FY 2026?
Questions, committee? Looks like you're getting off easy today.
Okay, well, just for now. And as my coworker said, I will provide you guys a table of those EBF funds, SBIF funds. I'll give that to you at the beginning, the top of the next meeting, so you can see where everything is. I apologize for not having that ready. So the next university is Emporia State. The agency submits a revised estimate of $35.4 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 2025, including $9.3 million SGF. Item number 1 is for building rehab and repair, so you're going to see that a lot with universities. The agency requests $31.4 million in total for rehab and repair projects, including $9.2 million in SGF. These projects include, but are not limited to, HVAC repairs, roof repairs, elevator improvements, and plumbing repairs. This includes an East Chiller project, an energy conservation project, which focuses on centralizing chilled water production, upgrading HVAC controls, and upgrade to non-LED lights campus-wide. The project will reduce energy consumption, lower the carbon footprint, and remove the remaining R22 refrigerant from the campus. Other major projects include re-roofing of King Hall Theater and the repair of foundation at Beach Music Hall. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will stand for questions on FY 2025.
Okay, committee, any questions on 2025? Not seeing any. And it looks like the LBC number matches up with agency.
Correct. The Budget Committee did approve and concur with the agency's request for the capital improvement.
All right. Let's move on to 2026.
The agency requests $21 million in capital improvement expenditures for FY 2026. Item number 1 is building rehab and repair. The agency requests $17.8 million for rehab and repair projects. including but not limited to electric repairs, upgraded fire alarm systems, storage facilities, Plum Hall Garden level renovation, sidewalk improvements, and corridor improvements at various campus buildings. This includes projects such as the King Hall Theater renovation, rehab, and repair project on the original 1964 finishes, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and student teaching spaces. This will include a new paint booth with proper exhaust for use of aerosol paints, ceramic coatings, and other particulate matter. Another agency project includes Welch Stadium East Side renovation. Due to leaks eroding the steel structure below the grandstands and the failing concrete have to be patched. The agency is reviewing several options to try and preserve historic stone walls or to gut certain structures. Other important projects to note include the West Campus Chiller Plant Project and the Stormont Maintenance Facility Upgrade, which houses the university's facilities department. With that, I will stand for any questions on FY 2026.
Questions on 2026? Senator Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have information about the Legislative Budget Committee and their recommendations. So overall, in any of the overall region's budget or individual schools, did the governor have any objections, or was she supporting all these requests?
Mr. Chair, I will have to go back and take a look and do a comparison for the university. So I'll follow up with you next week.
Further questions? All right. Let's move on to, looks like Fort Hays.
All righty. So for Fort Hays, the agency submits a revised estimate of $40.8 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 2025, including $16.6 million SGF. So I've kind of broken out those projects by SGF, EBF, and then other projects that are funded by special revenue funds. So the agency requests $16.6 million SGF for two projects, including $15 million for the Stroop Hall addition for the nursing workforce development, and then $1.6 million for state capital renewal projects. So that $15 million is something the legislature appropriated last year. The agency revised, so item 2 for EBF, the agency revised estimate includes $5.7 in educational building funds for multiple rehab and repair projects, including but not limited to roof repairs, heat pump replacements, and lighting. Item number 3 is for other projects. The agency revised estimate includes $15.9 million from special revenue funds for multiple projects, including but not limited to $8 million for the Forsyth Library renovations, $6.7 million for the Gross Coliseum HVAC, $1.2 million for small rehab and repair projects and parking projects. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for questions on FY 2025.
All right, committee questions. Go ahead, Senator Francisco.
Thank you very much. So I'm assuming under the special revenue that the Forsyth Library might still be paying from insurance funds for that renovation?
Mr. Chair, I'm unclear. I can refer to Chad Bristow with the Board of Regents if you would like.
And then I was also assuming that the small rehab and repair and parking projects might be, like parking funds that they're using.
Correct. For those are from a specific parking fund.
I don't need an answer to that. I'll get it later. Thank you.
Further questions? Okay. I had one on where it's the other projects, bottom of page 9 on the 26 capital improvements. The agency requests $9.7 million from special revenue, but then the bullet items were 8.1 plus 600,000, so we're missing roughly $1 million.
I think the Forsyth Library number is a little higher, so I just capped rounded it at 8.1. It could be longer, but I can follow up with you to make sure that that's in order.
Any further questions? All right, let's go on to Pittsburgh State. Thank you.
Okay, the agency submits a revised estimate of $39.7 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 2025, including $10.6 SGF. Item number 1 is those SGF projects. The agency requests 10.6 million SGF for several projects. That includes 3.7 for the NEMA prove-out facility, 2 million for the American Reading Facility improvements, and then 4.9 million in building rehab and repair. Item number 2 is for deferred maintenance. The agency requests 6.7 million in special revenue funds for deferred maintenance projects, which include but are not limited to HVAC replacements, roof replacements, and plumbing projects. Item number 3 is for other projects. The agency requests 19 million in special revenue funds for several projects, including but not limited to 250,000 for maintenance projects at the Overman Student Center, 200,000 for parking projects, 5 million for the PSU Block 22 project, and then 18.4 million for building rehab and repair projects. Any questions for 25?
Committee, any questions? Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarity's sake, so if you could talk a little bit about the revenue funds, these special revenue funds. So with each different campus at university, are those like their individual other funds that they hold, or does it come out of that whole pool, if you will, the EBF?
Mr. Chairman, so each of the universities has their own parking fund, and then sometimes it's specific to their student union. So the Overman Student Center has its own fund specifically for Pitt State. Same thing sometimes with those grants, whether they're ARPA grants, that's a federal fund, but those are just listed as other special revenue funds. But they all have, sometimes they have very unique ones, and then sometimes universities all have the same one, just depending on what it is. But not related to the EBF, and that's a separate item.
So for their own discretion to use?
Correct,
basically,
correct,
but still needs our approval?
correct.
Just clarifying that, thank you.
Further questions? Okay, let's move on to 26 then.
The agency requests 5.3 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY26. The request includes the following. If we turn to that back page, number 1 is for deferred maintenance. The agency requests 1 million from special revenue funds for deferred maintenance projects, including but are not limited to HVAC replacements, roof replacements, and plumbing projects. Item number 2 is for other projects. The agency requests 1 million from special revenue funds for multiple projects, including 250,000 for maintenance projects at the Overman Student Center, 200,000 for parking projects, and 620,000 for rehab and repair projects. Now we'll stand for questions on FY 2026.
Questions on 2026? All right, not seeing any. Let's move on to, it looks like K-State.
Yes. The agency submits a revised estimate of 208.5 million, including 51.5 million SGF for capital improvement expenditures. If we go to item number 1, that is for state capital renewal. So these are state capital renewal projects, which is funding, this is a specific funding source. The agency revised estimate includes 14.7 million SGF for state capital renewal projects, including but not limited to the following projects: 2.3 million for the BOCAT data center renovation, 3.2 million for the Thompson Hall renovation, 3.3 million for the Eisenhower Hall classroom and HVAC renovations, 2 million for the Fairchild Hall renovation, and 3.8 million for smaller capital improvement projects. Item number 2 is state demolition funds. The agency revised includes 5.8 million for the following demolition projects: 321,000 for the Ahern Gym and Natorium, 200,000 for the Swine Farm, 4.4 million for Weber and Call Hall, and then 800,000 was transferred from the Board of Regents, which you can see if you flip back, that was that transfer to them. Item number 3 is for the Ag Innovation Initiative. The agency revised estimate includes 97.9 million, including 25 million SGF for the Ag Innovation Initiative, which aims to develop innovative solutions and strategies to enhance the Kansas livestock and animal industry. In FY 2025, expenditures include capital projects to build facilities such as the Global Center for Grain and Food Innovation and the Agronomy Research and Innovation Center. Item number 3 for other projects. The agency revised estimate includes 59.1 million for other agency projects, including but not limited to the following projects: 26.8 million from EBF for rehab and repair, $15.8 million for the Strong Complex, $2.1 million for the Moore Hall bathroom remodel, $1 million for the Biomed Core facilities, and $11.2 million for other deferred maintenance projects. And I will stand for questions on 25.
Committee, any questions on 2025? Not seeing any. Let's go on with 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency requests $145 million in capital improvement expenditures for FY 2026, including $6 million SGF. This includes the following projects. Number one, the Ag Innovation Initiative. The agency requests $84.4 million, all from special revenue funds for the Ag Innovation Initiative, which includes capital projects to build facilities such as the Global Center for Grain and Food Innovation and the Agronomy Research and Innovation Center. Item number two, for those other projects, the agency requests $34.5 million, including $6 million SGF for agency projects, including but not limited to $15.8 million for deferred maintenance projects, $1 million for main campus classroom renovations, $15.8 million for the Strong Complex, and $2 million for other rehab and repair projects. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will stand for questions on FY 2026.
Thank you. Any questions for 2026? Not seeing any. Let's move on to Kansas State University Veterinary Medical Center.
Yes. The agency submits a revised estimate of $6.7 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 25. This includes the following. Item one, the Mosier Hall Small Animal Suite. The agency requests $5.9 million, all from restricted fee funds, for the renovations to the Small Animal Suite at Mosier Hall, which houses the Veterinary Medicine Teaching Hospital and the Department of Veterinary Clinical Services. An existing hallway will be repurposed to expand surgery sites from 4 to 7. The renovations are intended to improve patient comfort and care and improve the ability for vet med students to observe and participate in surgical procedures. This project is funded through private gifts. Item number two, Mosier Hall dog runs. The agency requests $342,366, all from the Veterinary Medicine Teaching Hospitality Fund for renovations to dog run facilities to improve plumbing infrastructure and foster an enhanced animal environment. And I will stand for questions on 25.
Any questions on 2025? Let's move on to 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's only one item for FY 2026. That's the debt service payments. So the agency requests $457,917 in capital improvement expenditures, primarily for debt service payments. Those payments go towards the College of Veterinary Medicine capital lease.
Questions on 26? Not seeing any. Let's go on to Kansas State University Extension Systems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you will see that there are no projects currently at this time. This is just for those debt service payments. So in FY 2025, you see the $88,298. And then in FY 26, you see the same. So the debt service payments goes towards a capital lease for Knox Land and Pastures for ESARP.
Okay. Any questions? Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the debt is paid off at this point, since there's no funds for 2026?
Mr. Chair, that is my assumption, but I will verify with the agency that that is correct.
Okay. If you could just follow up with us, that'd be great. All right. Wichita State University.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency submits a revised estimate of $242.1 million, including $7.6 million SGF for the following capital improvement expenditures. Item one is those SGF projects. The agency revised estimate includes $3.8 million SGF for several capital projects, including $2.5 million for improvements to the Henron HVAC, which improves ventilation and dust collection in Henron Hall, and then $1.4 million for state capital renewal and demolition. These includes repairs, upgrades, exterior repairs, and the raising of the International Education Center Annex and several dormitories. Item number two is special revenue fund projects. The agency revised estimate includes $61.2 million for multiple projects from special revenue funds, including $42 million for the for NIAR Hub, $6.8 million for miscellaneous projects, $7.1 million for the University Stadium project, and $3.2 million for the Wilcombe Stadium project. Item number 3 is the Wichita Biomedical Campus. The agency revised estimate includes $155.5 million, all from special revenue funds for the Wichita Biomedical Campus. The Health Science Center is 470,000 square feet, building complex which co-locates programs and clinics with the KU School of Medicine, KU School of Pharmacy, Wichita State University College of Health Professions, and Wichita State Tech Health Professions. The facility will consist of classrooms, research labs, simulation labs, faculty and staff office space, academic home space, and outward-facing clinic. Item number 2 is the Wichita Biomedical Campus SGF, and if you flip over, it'll continue. The agency revised estimate includes $3.8 million SGF for the Wichita Biomedical Campus, and then that gives a little description of what I just described. And then item number 5, the agency revised estimate includes $8.9 million from the Educational Building Fund for rehab and repair projects. This includes $2.3 million for the McKnight ventilation project, $750,000 for the geology building remodel, and then $5.8 million for rehab and repair. And with that, I will stand for questions on FY 2025.
Any questions? Senator Francisco, you're,
I'm chairing a meeting at 1.
okay, needing to go. So moving right along, 2026, please.
The agency requests $45.2 million in capital improvement expenditures in FY 2026. So in item number 1, it's for primarily from special revenue projects. The agency revised estimate includes $34.3 million, all from special revenue funds for the multiple projects, including $10 million for the geology building build remodel, $8.7 million for the University Stadium project, and $6.5 million for the NIAR Hub research. I'll stand for
If we have any questions there, so next.
Next is for KU. The agency submits a revised estimate of $221 million, including $10.1 million SGF for capital improvement expenditures. Item number 1 are those state capital renewal projects. The agency revised estimate includes $10 million for state capital renewal projects, including $3.4 million for the Strong chilled water distiller, $1.7 million for phase 2 of the Sunnyside Avenue reconstruction, $1.3 million for multiple projects, including roofing, fire alarms, and back generators, and the remaining $3 million is for smaller projects and upgrades and repairs. Item number 2 is state demolition projects. The agency revised estimate includes $139,284 for demolition projects, including $48,000 to raise the facilities administration building and $90,000 to raise the entomology lab. Item number 3 is for the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center, also referred to as KLATC. The agency revised estimate includes $4 million all federal opera dollars for the KLATC. This project is to further develop the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center campus in Yoder, Kansas, to strengthen basic training, expand professional development, implement campus security and advancement for law enforcement training, organize the campus with zones, and enhance the campus environment.
Any questions?
I need to still read 4 and 5, sorry. Item number 4 is for the 11th and Mississippi project. The agency revised estimate includes $117 million federal ARPA dollars and restricted fee funds for the 11th and Mississippi project. 11th and Mississippi is becoming the North Gateway to KU with direct access to the new Jayhawk Welcome Center, the Kansas Memorial Union, Dyke Hall, Spencer Museum of Art, and the David Booth Kansas Memorial. Item number 5 is for more special revenue projects. The agency revised estimate includes $74.7 million, all from special revenue funds for the projects, including $35 million from Educational Building Fund for rehab and repair, $1.8 million for student housing projects, $3 million for parking projects, $3.3 million for housing system operation projects, and $105 million for renovation and rehab and repair projects.
No questions.
Questions? Item number 1 for FY 2026, the agency requests $44.9 million in capital improvement expenditures. That first item is for the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. The agency requests $16 million, all federal ARPA dollars for the KLATC project, which is given that description earlier in 25. Item number 2 is for special revenue projects. The agency requests $13.7 million all special revenue funds for projects including $16.9 million for $6.9 million for deferred maintenance, $3 million for the Lewis Hall renovations, $2.8 million for the Phase 2 of Sunnyside Avenue reconstruction, $2.2 million for the West Campus median voltage system, and $1 million for the Kansas Geological Survey laboratory upgrades.
I have no questions on that. Let's move on to University of Kansas Medical Center.
Okay, last but not least, for KU Med, the agency submits an estimate of $125.1 million, including $83.7 million SGF and $10.3 million EBF and capital improvement expenditures. Item number 1 is for educational building rehab and repair. The agency revised estimate includes $10.3 million, all from the EBF for rehab and repair projects, including but not limited to fire alarms, upgrades, small compressor replacements, elevator renewals, and renovations to Wesco Hall. Item number 2 is for parking maintenance. The agency estimate includes $2.1 million, all from the parking fee fund for projects at the Kansas City campus and Wichita campus for all surface lots and parking structures. Item 3 is state general fund building rehab and repair. The agency revised estimate includes $8.7 million SGF for rehab and repaired projects, including but not limited to boiler replacements, elevator upgrades, window replacements, and other upgrades to meet ADA compliance. Item number 4 is special revenue funds, building rehab and repair. The agency revised estimate includes $19.4 million, all from special revenue funds for building rehab and repair, including but not limited to parking garage repairs, boiler replacements, building new labs, expanding simulation spaces, and renovations. Item number 5 is for the Cancer Center. The agency revised estimate includes $75 million for the SGF for the Cancer Research Facility. I'm going to move to FY 2020.
I believe that's it. No questions on 25 if you want to go for 26.
The agency requests $20.5 million in capital improvement expenditures. Item number 1 is for parking maintenance. The agency requests $2.2 million, all from the parking fee fund for projects at the Kansas City and Wichita campus. And then item number 2 is building rehab and repair. The agency request includes $9.8 million, all from special revenue funds for building rehab and repair projects, including but not limited to parking garages, repairs, boiler replacement, building new labs, and expanding simulation spaces and renovations.
Senator Clues, do you have any questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you for diving into that. It was a long one. Okay. There ain't any business that we can conduct at this point in time. Records or minutes can show that it's down to just 2 people here, and we will have to follow up when the next time the committee meets. I guess watch the board as far as the next committee meeting. I don't think we have it scheduled yet, but I will make the proper announcements and get it out on the bulletin board. So with that, I guess we are adjourned.